Hello everyone, welcome to YK Reviews. For today's video, we're going to be talking about Constellation, the latest Apple TV series, with the first 3 episodes just releasing, so let's dive into it here. Now, with the title of this video, basically talking about should you be checking out Constellation? Is this worth your time here? We'll be diving into it here. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. But if you are new to the channel, we do lots of types of reviews when it comes to movies, series. We do weekly entertainment news, keeping up to date with all the latest movie and series reviews, along with a whole bunch of different types of videos like tier ranking videos and all sorts. So if you do like that type of stuff, do consider hitting that subscribe button as we are trying to reach 400 subscribers. And for those of you that are fans of Star Wars, I just posted my initial thoughts, my review on the first 3 episodes of the Bad Batch animated show, so I'll post that somewhere around here. You can check that out. And of course, if you have seen the first 3 episodes of this show, please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What your thoughts are about it so far. Are you enjoying it? Do you dislike it? Will you continue checking it out on a weekly basis? Let me know down in the comment section below. But if you aren't aware about this show and what it is, this is what they describe the show as being: a fatal accident occurs on board the International Space Station, where a lone astronaut makes the heroic journey back to Earth only to discover key pieces of her life, including her young daughter, have changed. With casts including Noomi, RapaceJonathan, Banks, who is Mike from Breaking Bad. And essentially what this show kind of reminds me of is that if you watch the newest movie that came out, I believe in January, called ISS, which has had a lot of mixed reviews on it, mainly because of the plot and the premise not really taking full advantage of that space station. With this show, I definitely feel like the setup really works and was well executed, especially in the first episode, but there is some minor nitpicks that I have, because of course this is like an 8-episode event where they've only released the first 3 episodes. So like similar to the Bad Batch, they've released the first 3 episodes. Same situation with this one, so you're not going to get a full scope of what the show is. But in terms of the show itself, I'm loving what they start off with, especially in the first episode, because as it mentions in the plot, they're up in the International Space Station, like they're up in space. The main lead, the cast, she's an astronaut, she's in this space station, and then when things go awry, she needs to make her way back into planet Earth. But with the episode 1 focusing in on her being in space, the atmosphere that they're building, the tension, the stakes, even honestly the score that's helping towards build like these silent moments as she's like fighting her way to mend what's broken on the ship, to making her way back into Earth. The score in this really is well handled, and honestly I feel like it will be underrated and will be looked past when you're just watching the show on a regular basis, or when you're just like a general audience watching the show. I feel like you're just gonna miss the score when it comes to it, because the certain way they're building atmosphere in the first episode was brilliantly done. You get straight to the point, introducing the characters, introducing the situation, and then just letting you on this journey of our main lead and how the other astronauts, how they're navigating everything. And with this as well, you're getting this back and forth. So obviously they're communicating with Earth and how they're going to fix the problem, how they're going to get themselves back into Earth. So you're getting that well-balanced dynamic of the space station and the people in charge of NASA back down on planet Earth. So again, similar to that movie ISS with that specifics, but with this, a lot of elements are being brought to the table, because with this, again, first episode with a focus on the situation at hand up in the space station, you get that sort of horror vibes, the atmosphere that you're getting, like it's sort of a horror, then a thriller, then a high stakes, edge of your seat type of movie. You get a lot of even Interstellar type of vibes to it in the first episode with the situations that they are putting themselves in, and I'm a huge fan of that. Episode 1 for me is my standout, is my favorite episode so far, because of like what they're doing, even like the camera work too, because obviously you're inside the space station, you're very limited in terms of like the camera angles that you can perceive. But what they do really well with this is how they angle the cameras, how they're focusing on in terms of like the cinematography, I guess you can call it, with the show, with the episode, with how they're shooting things, I think was absolutely incredible and really well handled. Even going from like the crew being inside the space station to then going outside of the space station, outside in space, and having to fix the problems in the spaceship to try and resolve the issue to get them back down to Earth, how they're panning the camera to get them from inside to outside of the ship. I really enjoyed that. So that first episode really puts you on the edge of your seat, really gets you invested in the show and what they're going to do. And of course, with the premise, like I mentioned, how they're navigating from space, going from space back down to Earth and seeing different sort of things happening, the subtle little changes that they're seeing there. So that for me immediately hooked me. The premise, knowing that like going from space back down to Earth, again, interstellar vibes for me personally that I'm seeing there. So that immediately hooked me in. And then episode 1 grasped me with so much that I mentioned: the atmosphere, the cinematography, the score, and of course just the performances from the cast too. Like I mentioned, you've got Jonathan Banks amongst other cast members back down to Earth, but the standout would be Jonathan Banks. And then the main character, the main lead, Noomi, I'm not going to pronounce her last name because I feel like I'm just going to butcher it every time. So Noomi, the lead, who I think just does standout amazing performances, because there's going to be one point where she's by herself in the space station up in space, and it's just focusing on her, and like sometimes you get mind games being played, you think that it's mind games, but it just works so well. So episode 1 is really gripping, edge of your seat kind of stuff. And definitely if you do like space astronaut type of shows, if you do like that kind of stuff, if you're a fan of Interstellar too, episode 1 is one I definitely would recommend, because it really is a great start to this 8 episode series that they're going to be bringing to Apple TV. So like, again, not surprising with Apple TV, they produce some great quality content. However, what I feel like is that it kind of slows down a lot, because with episode 2 it starts focusing in on the characters back down to Earth, which you are invested in. But like I said, for me, Jonathan Banks is a main character that I'm fully invested in, but the others you kind of, for me, a little bit of hit and miss. But then with the majority of the episode, it's again a little bit slower pace. But then as you're getting towards like that third act, as you're getting towards this tension of getting this character Noomi, the main lead, back down to Earth, that's when it really hits home. That's when it really gets back to the focus of the show, gets back to what you really were invested in the first episode. So for me, episode 2 is definitely a slower start, but a really strong finish with how they build up towards her getting back down to Earth. Again, with the camera work, with the cinematography, with the shots that they pull from like Earth and outside the atmosphere as well. I really feel like it was well executed. Like, that's for me what I give high praise for when it comes to this show, is how they handle the International Space Station, how they handle from just not focusing on the character, like for example when they're in like a spaceship, when they're in a rocket type of thing, not just focusing on the face, but they go around showing the camera work, showing the outside surface too. So I really do enjoy that aspect of the show, and that's for me what gets me hooked and what gets me invested in it. But then for me, the biggest criticism I have is when it comes down to episode 3, they really slow down the pace. They really slow down the show with episode 3, because you're going and focusing in on the characters and just this investigation going on what happened in the space stations. But episode 3 just felt like this really slow build up, and you kind of focus in on the characters and like what they saw and all that kind of stuff, and like the impact it had on them. But when I mentioned the premise and how this has got interstellar vibes to it, and that there's going to be subtle differences, you don't really get to explore that much. Like, you don't really see that impact, you don't really see the premise or the plot of like what they promised you really taking effect right now. So you're 3 episodes in, but there's not really much in terms of what you were expecting going into the show. If for me, I was expecting an interstellar type of thing, I was expecting like a big difference or a big change, and that she's going to notice this when she gets back down to Earth, but you're not really seeing that. So it's sort of a slow build up towards what the premise was, or what the plot of this show was promising. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's going to take you on this roller coaster of emotions, because there is some certain sequences that do some time jumping, that do some trippy moments in there, which can be kind of confusing at times. But if you're patient with the show, which I am going to be, because it's an 8 episode event and I'm already hooked in, I'm waiting to see what they're going to do. But my only fear would be that this show, the lead up to it, the build up to it, to then how it's going to be executed and finished, might be either a really well handled, mind-blowing conclusion to a great show, or that it's just going to be some predictable flat finale or flat explanation of how this was all tied in and how everything was different and that kind of stuff. So that's my only fear and worry, just because they haven't really set up a whole lot so far. But Overall, I am enjoying the show. While I enjoyed episode 1 much more than episode 3, I definitely do feel like they are building something, and there is a lot of groundwork that they have built up to make this a really promising show. So honestly, I would recommend this. If you don't want to go on like a binge watching spree, it is a week-to-week basis, so you can take your time watching the first 3 episodes in time for episode 4. Each episode is about 50 minutes or so, 55 minutes, but you have to be prepared for like a slower tone as you're progressing through the first 3 episodes. I honestly think that if you do like International Space Station, if you like space type of movies and shows, this one would be an enjoyable watch, but you're going to be prepped for a slow build up as the show is progressing based on the first 3 episodes. But honestly, I am enjoying it so far. If you're on the fence, because again this is an 8-episode event, there's going to be 5 more episodes left, so if you prefer just waiting for the full review, because I am going to be doing a full review of the show once it finishes in 5 weeks time, then you might as well wait just for me to check it out and let you know if it's worth the whole watch or not. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe so that you don't miss out on that full review later on in 5 weeks time. But overall, I'm enjoying the show. I'm really liking it. The standout performances, again, Jonathan Banks, the main lead, even the little girl, the one that plays the daughter, I think she's honestly doing a fantastic job in her role as well. So those 3 are the standouts for me in terms of acting and performances, and obviously of Jonathan Banks, even just his line delivery too. I just really enjoy his performance and his role in the show. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have you checked out the show? What are your thoughts? Do you enjoy it? Are you going to keep watching? And if you haven't checked out the show, do you think you'll check out the first 3 episodes? Or would you just wait till the full review comes out in 5 weeks time? Let me know down in the comment section below. But that about wraps it up for this review. Keep an eye out on the channel because we are going to be doing the weekly entertainment news video in the next couple of days. And I'm going to be checking out Dune Part 2 this weekend. So review's most likely going to come on Monday. So subscribe to the channel. Keep an eye out for that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.